Well, hey everybody, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. I know I look a little rough today, but been in a fishing tournament for a couple days, and then turkey hunting here for a couple days, and I'm actually in the blind right now. It's the second day of the season, the first season, and we've had a great hunt over here. Not able to connect on a bird as of yet. Still a couple hours left to go before I have to head back across the state, but we're going to have that story for you. We're also going to have a walleye egg take that Jordan Brown just recently filmed over on the west side of the state. You're going to want to see that. And then, to be honest with you, I don't really know what's going to be the rest of this week's show, because depends on how Jenny and Jordan do this morning in the woods as I'm taping this. So we're going to have a turkey hunt, some walleye egg take, and something else. Don't know yet what it's going to be, but it's going to be a good show. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger, and it's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan out of doors. Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's the love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Greenstone Farm Credit Services, making recreational land ownership possible across Michigan and northeast Wisconsin. Begin your land financing journey at one of Greenstone's 37 locations or visit greenstonefcs.com. By Meyer, a destination for hunting, fishing, and camping. From bug spray and tents to GPS and gas, Meyer has nearly everything you need to take on nature and get you there. Meyer. By Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises of Munising, exploring Lake Superior's Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore with its sandstone cliffs, caves, waterfalls, and lighthouses. Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises on the web at picturedrocks.com. By Country Smokehouse, offering a variety of meat products. Country Smokehouse is located 3 miles south of I-69 on M53, just south of Imlay City. Country Smokehouse is a meat processor, a butcher, and a destination for sportsmen.
The opening day of the turkey season took me to the heart of the Thumb just outside of Kingston. I was here to hunt with Lane Walker and take part in his family's Blessing of the Decoys party the night before the opener. There was lots of stories flying and great food everywhere you looked. It was a ton of fun with lots of good folks ready to hit the woods in the morning. As the festivities wound down, we headed north to Lane's family cabin as we did a little scouting. Lane has hunted this area most of his life and seemed to have a good handle on our plan for the morning.
So Lane, what's our plan of attack here tonight? What are we doing?
Well, tonight we are going to try to find some birds. The weather has been crazy. Had a bunch of birds pattern before the rain. We got hammered with rain. And then last Thursday and Friday it was so windy you could barely go outside. So it's been a beautiful day today. So we're hoping to maybe see the flock that we've been looking at. But no matter what, we're going to find some birds for tomorrow, that's for sure.
Sure enough, we found a few fields holding birds, which only amped us up even more to hit the woods. Lane says the outdoors has really been a big part of his life.
Well, I have a different story than most people. If anybody knows my dad, he's an extreme hunter. We started hunting when we were probably 4 or 5, and he was a taxidermist when I was growing up, so our lives revolved around hunting season. I remember he'd work 11 months out of the year and save his vacation time for hunting season, and he'd get a little grumpy if he didn't get a deer, but he always found a way to get a buck. But no, it was just something my dad and brother, we always did together and learned a lot of great lessons hunting, and just something I've always enjoyed. In high school, I still loved to hunt, but I was into sports a lot. And once I got into college and I didn't play sports, I really got into hunting.
We're just sitting around telling stories. A few of them are true, but we found that too much truth can ruin a good story.
95%.
As the morning dawned with roosted birds in front of us, I had a chance to talk with Lane about how he became an outdoor writer, which he has been doing now for quite a few years.
When I was going to college to be a teacher, I worked at a newspaper for about 3.5 years, and I covered sports, everything football, basketball, baseball, softball, and I really liked it. And getting paid to do something you enjoy was pretty good idea. That's why I was going into teaching, because I loved working with kids. So after graduating, I had my teaching degree, and I just had finished up at the paper, and a good friend of ours that's an outdoor writer said, "You love to hunt, and you're a great writer. Why don't you become an outdoor writer?" I thought, wow, that's a pretty cool idea. You get paid to write about hunting and get to meet a bunch of great people. So I sent my first article, and that was about 12 years ago, and I write for Woods and Water, Michigan Outdoor News, and I've probably had about 140 articles published in the last 12 years total. So that's been a great blessing.
You want to talk about getting a blessing? Well, with a few hens out in front of us yapping away, it wasn't long at all and we had birds everywhere. We still had longbeards in sight, so Lane opted to pass on the jakes, but it took all our willpower to do so. We both had tags in our pocket and the entire day to hunt, as well as the first few hours of day 2.
This morning we had birds everywhere. Just could not close the deal. I was itching at those jakes. Don't think I wasn't. Don't think I wasn't. We had 3 jakes come in, but just a beautiful morning. We know we got more hunt left, so we're not too worried, but what a blessing, what a beautiful morning. I could not wait for spring turkey season. All winter I got the calls. I watched as much turkey hunting as I could, and it was well worth it already. So
we had quite a morning with lots of birds working very close to us, so we made a plan for the rest of the day. But before we did, we had a chance to stop at a neighbor's who had a dandy bird.
The story, Hunter. What happened this morning?
We were coming back from breakfast, and
Coming back from breakfast.
we pulled in the driveway, and they were back there. So we snuck up into the far lane, and then we called and we put a Jake decoy up, and so like Dad called a little bit, and then they came right in.
Nice. How far was the shot?
35 yards.
35 yards. And what kind of gun were you using?
20 gauge.
Nice job. Congratulations.
Thanks.
With most of the day to go, we had several spots to check and lots of birds were in the area. Now, one of the main reasons that Lane and I got together was when he told me about his kids' chapter books that he writes, all geared around hunting. It's really neat to hear more about how an outdoor writer started to write kids' hunting books.
I'm a principal where I grew up, and I'm so fortunate because I love the district, I love being home. And I used to teach 4th and 5th grade, and I always had kids come up to me and say, "Mr. Walker, I saw you in Woods and Water, I saw you in this magazine. Why don't you write a book about hunting for kids?" And I've always wanted to write a book, and I became friends with a famous author named Jonathan Rand, and he told me you had to find your niche, something different. Well, a year ago, December, I was laying in bed and the Lord spoke to me and said, "Here's your niche. You're going to write a series called Hometown Hunters, and it's going to be realistic fiction, and it's going to take place all over the country." My first book was in Michigan, in a fictional town called Pikesville. But you're going to pick different states and different animals, and they're going to have adventures. So the first book was The Legend of the Ghost Buck, and that was released in May, and it's done extremely well. Went out on a limb, I got my wife on board and had a lot of help from family and friends, and I took a gamble on it, and the first book sold so well I started writing the second book, Scarface's Secret, and this is about twins in Nebraska on a hunt for a turkey named Scarface, and it's also kind of a treasure hunt. But each one of my books, I really wanted to have a good moral in it. My faith is in both books. I think that's important. I think a lot of times kids have trouble reading books. So one, they need excitement. They need to have fun with it. And I want something they can learn from it. So my first book was about faith, and the second book is about forgiveness. There's always like a moral undertone to them. And I'm writing the third book right now, and that's about hope. So I'm excited about that. But I'd like to write 10 in the series, all outdoor hunting and fishing related.
feels like I should have sunscreen on. I went from freezing this morning, hat, gloves, all our thermal gear. Now Jimmy's got a good tan already, and we're ready to kill a turkey. We are ready to kill a turkey. We're having a good time.
Well, our day was about done, with a few birds just out of range. So now it was on to day 2, which would only be for a few-hour roost hunt.
Well, it's a pretty quiet morning this morning. It's day 2 of the turkey season, here in the first week of the early spring season. and was hunting with Lane Walker yesterday, and he is a principal, as we kind of discussed earlier in the show, and he had to work today. So over here in the heart of the thumb, and so he had to go to work today, so I'm just sticking it out for a couple hours this morning. We had such a good roost hunt here yesterday that we thought it'd be worth me giving it a few hours this morning. And did hear a couple gobbles early, kind of off to my southeast, and then I just heard a shotgun shot over there. So I'm assuming there's one less gobbler. I did see one, what I'm assuming was a hen, pitched down from a roost tree right where they were roosted yesterday, but they must not have roosted there tonight, or last night anyways.
Well, if you know me at all, I rarely spare the lead, and this Jake just hung around too long.
Well, that was pretty funny. You just never know how a turkey hunt's gonna go. We had these, well, actually, Lane had to leave a little earlier. He's a principal here in Kingston area, so he had to go back home, and he left the blind a little earlier this morning. And obviously we're trying to shoot some longbeards out here, but we're here to kill turkeys. And it was so funny. So I just got a text from Jordan that he was able to tape a successful turkey hunt this morning, which is awesome. Looks like a nice bird. And right as I was responding to him, a hen and two jakes walked into this field, and I thought, oh, they're just jakes. I'll wait and see if a longbeard's coming. Must have been in this field for 10 or 15 minutes. No longbeard. And I actually had time to look at my calendar to see how many more days I was going to get the hunt in this early season. And I forgot, next week we're going down to Chicago because my sister-in-law just had a baby. We're going to go see the baby. So a couple days I had blocked out for turkey hunting. Not going to happen. So I've got 2 fishing trips lined up this week, and I only have Saturday to turkey hunt. And I just didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket. I love wild turkey. I make some phenomenal turkey jerky out of them. And so I had a good hunt this morning. It was a lot of fun. Nice little jaker over here in the thumb. A good way to end the hunt. Hoping for a longbeard, but you know what? Sometimes you can't be too choosy, and it is so fun to pull that trigger. Let's go take a peek at him.
With only one more day to hunt during my season, I opted for the bird in the hand versus the one in the bush. It was really a fun morning, but better than the bird, well, it was the chance to meet some more great sportsmen and spend some time at turkey camp. I hope to join Lane and his family again at their little slice of heaven here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
Hi, I'm Jordan Brown. For this week's show, I teamed up with the DNR at their annual walleye egg take on the Muskegon River. It takes place just below Croton Dam, and you won't believe how many walleye they turned up.
We're here today. We're located just about a mile below Croton Dam at the Pine Street access. The walleye can run up the river, up as far as Croton Dam, and then they can't go any farther because the dam blocks their movement pathway. And it's about 45 miles of river from Lake Michigan up to this point. So, and this is the main spawning area between Croton down to Newaygo. Good gravel, cobble substrate for the fish. The Muskegon River has the largest spawning population of walleye south of Green Bay in Lake Michigan. And we know from the estimates that we've done over the past 20 years that the average run size is about 40 to 50,000 adults.
After learning a little bit more about why the DNR chooses this portion of the Muskegon River, it was time to hit the water for the first and the most exciting step of the egg take.
So what we do is this year we're going to spend about 4 days to get the roughly 40 million eggs that we need. And we'll come up in the morning with an electrofishing boat, start up near the dam, and collect the fish that are stunned by the electrofishing boat. They'll select out the walleye, especially the larger females, from all the fish that are stunned in the river, and there's always a lot of other fish that come up, suckers and steelhead and things like that. So the fish are stunned and they'll float a long ways downstream. They'll float a couple miles, 3 miles downstream sometimes, and we hear people saying they'll see the fish there, but so some of them are stunned longer than others, but you can see when we bring them back here that they slowly recover. And for instance, this year this is our 4th day, and even the fish that we've spawned, we have not lost a fish yet. So we've returned them all alive to the river. So it takes them a while to recover, and it looks like they're dead when they're rolling around down in the river, but they're really not. So they'll be floating around. But and then they bring the fish back to the spawning site here at Pine Street and sort the fish. We'll take the males and put them in one cage. We'll take the females, the right females, and put them in another cage, and anything that's green we'll throw back into the river at that point. And of course then we collect the eggs from the fish, and then the females and the males that we use for spawning, we'll put them into a recovery cage, and usually within about a half hour or an hour they've recovered enough, and then we release them back into the river.
There's a big misconception when it comes to walleyes on the west side of the state and just how well they naturally reproduce. Many people believe that the DNR is to blame and that their efforts are detrimental to the overall population. That, however, couldn't be further from the truth, with a large majority of captured fish being stocked.
Usually more than 95% of the fish that we collect are marked fish, so they're fish that we stock. Now we know we have we have a large number of fish that are spawning in the river. We know we've had several studies done in the past 5 or 6 years to try and determine why we're not getting a lot of natural reproduction. And for instance, we have we estimate about 3 to 4 billion eggs are being laid in the river each year. But then when we estimate the number of fry that are actually moving downstream towards Muskegon Lake, we're only getting about 3 to 5 million, which is a very, very small number. So we're not really sure. We're still trying to figure out what the problem is, why they're not actually successful in hatching the eggs. We know the eggs are viable because we take these fish back to the hatchery and we get a 50% hatch on average from those, but we're certainly not getting that in the river right now. And it could be a function of the currents in this particular side of the river, the changes in the water temperatures that are occurring because the dams are in place. We're not sure yet, and we're going to continue studying that issue. So we know we're supporting this population almost completely through stocking at this point.
Special thanks to the DNR for a very informative day on the water here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
We have a lot of good gun shops here in our state, but only one that specializes in air guns. And I have to say I learned a lot in my time here about precision air guns. Jim Stannis and his wife run this shop just outside of Dryden, and it's quite the place.
Started the business, this will be our 7th year in January actually, and the construction company, which we've been running up until then, was starting to slow up a little bit, as all businesses did, in Michigan and throughout the country for that matter. So being very familiar with the air guns, having shot and competed with air guns for at least 30 years at that time, I said, well, here's something we have knowledge on and product knowledge. Maybe we should try and sell a few air guns. So we started with literally 10 air guns, premium air guns. And, I guess 7 years later, here we are. So as of, again, January this year, we formally closed out the construction business. This is our full-time occupation now. Nancy and I do this 24/7 basically with your home base, but this is us.
I was really only familiar with standard pellet guns, so for me the world of high-end air guns was very interesting, and I was amazed at some of these guns.
Typically, if they're coming to make a purchase, we try and ascertain what their wants, needs, and desires are. What do they want the gun for? And then we can better address what gun they want to get into. Of course, then we have to somewhat touch on a budget because there is a broad range of pricing. You're going to run in the $400 to the $3,400 range typically, depending on what type of gun you want to get, what you want it to do. And then, of course, you've got optics and fill accessories on top of that. So once we've established that, then we can show them some of our premier models. The Theobins are a top-of-the-line PCP gun, basic, tried and true, a simple heavy gauge receiver with a free-floated barrel. They come in various configurations. The Day State is probably one of the most sophisticated guns made at this time. This gun, I don't know if you can see it over there or not, Jimmy, but this particular model is the Airwolf. It's all electric. You can see the shot counter here. We've had 3,000 rounds through this gun, the fill pressure, the power setting we're at. There's multiple power settings this gun can be set at. It uses a pressure sensor in the bottle to tell the computer how much pressure is left and how long to leave that valve open for to maintain a very even velocity. Nice rifles, top of the line. It can use a single shot tray that I have in the gun now, or it can take a 10-shot magazine. The Theoben can also be singly loaded or take a 12-shot magazine. And in a perfect world, you want a gun that'll do both. Believe it or not, when we're sitting shooting on the benches, we single load a lot. I mean, it's not that it's a speed thing, but it's really faster than loading a mag every 10 or 12 shots. You're loading, shooting, loading, shooting. It's a nice feature. The FX, another top-of-the-line product, very innovative company. This is one of their newest and best sellers, the Royal 400, 22 caliber and 17 caliber. They also make a 500 that's in 25 caliber. Nice rifle. This has been one of my squirrel guns that I've used most frequently last season. It's a lighter, shorter gun, accurate, fantastic rifles.
Jim has a variety of makes and models, from Springers, the guns you cock by hand, to PCP all-air semi-automatics. These guns are fun to shoot.
Again, this has a single loading tray in it, Jimmy, so you just drop it in the tray, nudge it forward, and that's it. This thing's built like a Swiss watch. I mean, there's no cocking effort at all. We're not pulling back any hammer spring. This bolt is here strictly for the purpose of putting a pellet in the barrel. Everything else is electronic on this gun. Even the trigger's electronic, which is very unique. If you notice, when I pull the trigger on this gun, there's no over travel. When the gun senses the right pressure, it just fires and your finger just sits there. Really? It doesn't have to move, it's simply putting pressure on a switch.
I have to say the triggers on these guns were amazing. One thing I was surprised to hear is that shops like this here in Dryden are really not very common at all.
It's a specialty market, it's a niche market, but it's a growing niche market, and you know, we're glad to be here to support that market. But no, there really isn't. Growing up and having an interest in air guns and purchasing air guns, everything was always done through mail order, kind of sight unseen. You didn't know what you're getting till you got it. I would have died to have a shop like this, in my backyard, where we could actually go touch and feel and look at and test fire the guns, Jimmy. But not too many other shops. There's really only one other shop I know of in the country that would have this level of air gun, in store, that you could actually walk in and purchase and view.
It's interesting to me that these guns really have evolved and now have big caliber guns as well. Jim and his shop really are not trying to have guns that will compete with the typical rifle calibers that we are aware of. He says that air guns really fill a different role.
Our theory on that whole thing is we don't really want to sell something that has the same energy as a rimfire. That's kind of defeating the purpose of getting the precision air gun. Most people have rimfires. Most people can't shoot a rimfire in a certain situation because of the noise or the a chance for a ricochet, insufficient backstop. Not that these can be shot indiscriminately, but they can be shot safely in an area where you wouldn't probably shoot a firearm. And that's the big appeal to these guns. Indoor shooting, in Michigan we're stuck indoors 5-6 months a year. You can shoot these indoors. You don't have all the residue, the smoke residue, the lead dust. So they offer the shootability that a lot of times a firearm doesn't, and that's what we strive for, and that's what we try and sell. We don't push big power, we push precision, because that's really, in an air gun, what they're for, and it's really what's going to get the job done.
Most of the air guns that I have shot and the one that I now own are ones you cock by hand. Now, Jim says these types of guns can be just as accurate as the other models of air guns, but you do want to make sure that you're dealing with a well-made gun.
This is a fixed barrel. It's not a break barrel, but it's the same principle. It's cocking compressing a spring with a piston head that compresses air and pops the pellet out the barrel. Generally speaking, the barrel breaks can be just as accurate as a fixed barrel. But obviously when you go to a fixed barrel, it's a non-issue. It's never anything you have to be concerned about. But I would not buy a break barrel because you're under the illusion it's not going to be as accurate, because it can be as accurate. If they change it all in their lockup, it's such a minute amount over such a long period of time, it really doesn't have any effect on accuracy, as long as it's a better quality barrel break that you've got.
I was amazed how much fun these guns really were to shoot and how well made they are. And whether you're looking to take care of a varmint problem in an area that you can't shoot a traditional rifle, or if you're looking to set up an indoor range, or you want to be able to put a pellet through a dragonfly at 50 yards, you may want to look at the world of precision air guns. Fortunately, we here in Michigan have a spot that would love to introduce you to it.
Well, hey everybody, thanks for watching Michigan Out of Doors this week. If you missed part of this week's show or last week's show, you can always go to our website, check out MichiganOutofDoorsTV.com. Full episodes of the show there, and if you do the Facebook thing, we're on there quite frequently updating you on what's going on as we try and bring you a brand new show every week here at Michigan Out of Doors. So thanks for watching this week. We're going to have some good turkey action. Actually got a couple different fishing stories planned for this week, so great time of the year to be a sportsman here in the state of Michigan, and hopefully we'll see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Zimmer Roofing and Construction in Port Huron, featuring Duralast roofing systems made in Michigan. Zimmer Roofing and Construction provides installation, maintenance, service, and repair, serving commercial and residential clients on the web at zimmerroofing.com. By Propane, exceptional energy. Propane retailers promote the safe use of Michigan-produced gas energy in homes, farms, and businesses across our great state. Learn more at usemichiganpropane.com. By Meyer, a destination for hunting, fishing, and camping. From bug spray and tents to GPS and gas, Meyer has nearly everything you need to take on nature and get you there. Meyer. Closed captioning is brought to you by Propane, exceptional energy. Propane retailers promote the safe use of Michigan-produced gas to outdoor enthusiasts across our great state.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man. I am a Michigan man. Ask where I'm from and I'll show you my hands. Lord above.